No, it's good evening, everyone, and thank you for coming. Welcome. It is so lovely to see so many of you here this evening. I'm Charlotte Hawkins. For those of you who don't watch television first thing in the morning, I present on Sky News the Sunrise programme with Eamon Holmes. Now, I am here, probably like many of you actually, as a patient of Professor Dan Reinstein. I'm pleased to say it's made a big difference to my life. I was pretty much blind as a bat, I have to admit, so that's what it felt like anyway. I was one of these people that had glasses, and if I put them down, I would not be able to see where they were to put them back on again, which is a bit of a problem really, isn't it? I wore contact lenses. I was about -5.5, which I felt was quite bad. It probably isn't on the grand scheme of things, but when you have to read words off a very small screen from a very large distance away as a profession, it can be a bit of a hindrance actually. So I would personally say it has changed my life. I can now read the autocue perfectly. I have vision like a hawk, I would say, which is a pretty good place to be, all things considered. Anyway, on with the important part of this evening. Oh, hold on. I'm kidding you. It's my writing, not my eyesight. Now, we know that Professor Weinstein has made such a huge difference to thousands of people's lives by just giving them their eyesight, and we know what a gift that can be. And now he plans to give it to those who really need it the most. When he first talked to me about his plans to give free laser eye surgery to people who couldn't afford it, I thought, to be honest, I thought he was a bit of a nutter, and he won't mind me saying this. It is an ambitious plan, and I just thought, how can this work? When most of us know laser eye surgery costs thousands of pounds. How on earth could you make this work? He will be telling you exactly how you can make this work and the difference that it will make. And particularly in a place like Nepal, this will change lives. It will make the difference between someone being able to go out and earn a living, someone being able to support the family, and I know that it's a country that needs this so much. It will make a big difference, and hopefully this is just the start of things to come. Now, tonight we are honoured to have as one of our special guests the Nepali ambassador to the UK, His Excellency Dr. Suresh Chandra Chalise, and his wife Dr. Milan Adhikari. They're very kindly given their time to be here this evening to support this project. We're incredibly grateful for all that support. He's now here to say a few words.
Professor Reinstein, eminent members of London Vision Clinic Foundation, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. A few months ago, probably 7 or 8 months ago, I was in Nepal. Before I left Kathmandu for London as an ambassador, I was attending a dinner. And in that dinner, my friend, very good friend, the ambassador of UK to Nepal, Dr. Andrew Holt, he was also there. He had told me that, look, ambassador, you are going to UK and you will find a number of organizations, philanthropic societies, which have been working for Nepal. I'm very happy to say that this is me, I'm experiencing that. Thank you so much, Professor Ryan, to invite me to this event. Actually, what we see is that the relations between Nepal and UK is wonderful, unparalleled. I should say it's a special relation. And because of a special relation, I find that there is so much of goodwill for Nepalese and Nepal. Every year, approximately 27 to 32,000 British tourists go to Nepal. Of course, Nepal has been blessed by scenic beauty and world's pride, such as tallest mountain, Mount Everest in the world. And Buddha's place, Lord Buddha's birthplace. But there is also a third factor, that is the Gurkha, Nepalese Gurkhas. Gurkhas which fought First World War, Second World War, and have been fighting still in Afghanistan. They are the cornerstone of bilateral relations. It is the Gurkhas who won 13 Victoria Cross in the military history of UK. It is wonderful. It is great. I think because of these relations also, these special relations also, British people have been very much generous to see Nepal prosperous and Nepal helped. In this connection, the project which Professor Ryan has initiated to help the poor, helpless, people living with blindness and impaired vision is indeed a great thing for Nepal and for Nepalese. I firmly believe that on the one hand this project will help the helpless people. On the other hand, it will definitely enhance our bilateral relations, particularly at the people level. Therefore, the government of Nepal is fully behind this project. Anyone who will help this project will highly be appreciated. I support this project wholeheartedly, and I am very much delighted to be part of it. Thank you so much for your kind attention. Thank you.
Thank you very much to Dr. Chansey for those words. Now, I'm delighted to be on the supporting committee of this foundation. If I can take this opportunity to urge you all to help and support this project in any way you can. It really is groundbreaking. This will be the first humanitarian laser eye surgery in the world. It's a very special thing, and it really will make a huge difference. Dan is a pioneering surgeon. I think I can probably safely say a bit of an eye genius all round. He's helped so many people. He's about to give the gift of sight to so many others who need it so desperately. So please give him a huge, huge round of applause. You don't
Why should I be? I'm amongst patients, but I feel like I'm amongst friends, because I guess the sort of work that I do is, it's medical, but it's more personal. It's not about illness. It's about function. And so I think we enjoy a different kind of doctor-patient relationship. You might feel that way, so I feel good here. I just came back from Nepal. Craig Engelfried, who's the manager, CEO of London Vision Clinic, and I, we made a trip last minute. This project, Charlotte keeps on mentioning me. It's not. I was saying earlier, the only thing that I would say is really me about this project is that I wouldn't take no for an answer whenever I talk to people about it. But we have so many people oaring on the same ship, we're all pushing in the same direction at this point, that it's avalanching. And Craig and I, really at the last minute, took some time out last week of August, and we went out to Uganda to the hospital. And I'm just going to show you some pictures that we were taking, mostly out of taxis on our way between places. Nepal, Kathmandu, is a sprawling city of several million, but it is extremely, extremely poor. And I grew up in Mexico City, as an American child expat, in the neighborhoods where everything was very nice and people had swimming pools. But there doesn't seem to be one of those nice neighborhoods at all in Kathmandu. It's completely poor everywhere. We were at Dr. Ruid's house. I will tell you about Dr. Ruid for dinner, and when we came out, his entrance to his house, beautifully decorated, intricately carved wooden entrance, and came out of the gates of the house, and we turned left and turned left again, and it was a slum. However, the people are sunny, all of them. They are proud people, and they are hard-working people, and they don't seem deprived. It's just the way that we see it because of the sort of value systems that we measure everything by. As you know, the country is mainly Hindu, but they live very much side by side with Buddhists. And here's the monkey temple, where the shrines of both religions are side by side. It's a very peaceful place. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with a video. And this video is one which really brings us up to date in terms of what the Nepalese Eye Project, or Tilganga, led by Dr. Sanduk Ruid, to show you what they have done in the last 20 years. And then I will carry on.
73-year-old Chandra Maya lives alone. Yet, in Nepal, it is customary for an aging mother to live with one of her sons. Of her 4 children, Chandra Maya's daughter is the only remaining child living close by. And now, in just the last 3 months, her eyesight, like so many other aging Nepalis, has been completely blocked by cataracts.
A country like Nepal, which is agricultural subsistence, people tend to live in mostly joint families. The persons, whether a male or a female who is blind, is an extreme burden to the family, both social and financial burden. What happens in the initial phase is a bit of sentiment, and if there are some strong sons and daughters, they tend to look for a couple of months, you see, giving them food in the morning and food in the evening and looking after them. But then after about 2 months, the realities of practical mechanics takes place, and then that is not possible for the families to continue. So they often are left to stay in a corner like an animal.
No मिठो लाग्छ नि, नमिठो लाग्छ। यहाँका देखे त नि म यसो आलु पनि कोर्दिनु लाग्छ। मलाई नमिठो लाग्छ नानी। पछि बित्न पर्छ, बित्न सक्छ। नमिठो लाग्छ। छोरा छ, विदेशमा। तिमीलाई छोरा छ। तिमीलाई छोरा छ। नमिठो लाग्छ मलाई।
The people start having a total fear for light, and they just crumble together. And I think in the course of the process they develop psychological breakdown. The good thing about cataract surgery is, if surgery is done, I have seen many instances where all these processes have reversed in a very short span of time. That's what's most forgiving for the surgery.
Chandra Maya will now embark on her own climb. She and her granddaughter Sita will walk several miles up a steep mountainside to the village of Faflu, where Chandra Maya has heard of the miraculous doctors who might bring her world back to life.
Namaste.
She has absolute cataracts in both eyes. I think we should do her left eye today. The pupil reacts very beautifully. See, when I shine the light, an indication that the retinal function is still good.
So you got that fan.
patients spent the night in makeshift recovery rooms, nurses and orderlies arrange everyone for the doctor's inspection. The eye surgery technique that Dr. Ruid has worked so hard to refine allows patients to have their bandages removed after only one night of recovery.
Has the public seen Dr. Johnson? Just when she passed away.
This is your patient. कस्तो देख्यो है आज है? राम्रो देख्यो? एकदम
एकदम राम्रो देख्यो
त्यो पर हेर्नुस् त त्यो मान्छे को हो?
मान्छे हो नि
You show me your fingers there. यो कतिवटा औँला छ?
दुईवटा
नाम? कस्तो रङको छ? कस्तो रङको?
सेतो छ
सेतो छ। Blind people are blind everywhere. They have the same sentiments, and then after seeing, they're going to express the same sentiments. So I think that's why our work is very special. We should not think about boundaries. I think we should all think about human beings as one big family.
Well, I think the only way that I can describe how I felt actually seeing this in the flesh is like angels work on earth. You can feel it. It's just too big to describe. Being able to give people who are literally blind sight. In terms of statistics, there are about 37 million people in the world who are blind from cataract. I mean blind, just can't see a thing. About 1% of the blind is due to refractive error of glasses that's not corrected. But if we think about visual impairment, which is a definition by the World Health Organization, visual impairment is you don't see well enough to function. That's not blind means you can't take one step. Visual impairment means you can't work. It means you cannot read. You cannot see which bus is coming. You cannot weave a basket if that's what you do. You cannot sow seeds in the field. You are not a working member of your family or your village or your society. And you are, in fact, it's worse, as Dr. Ruid put it, you are now a burden on your family, and it has a double negative effect. If we think about visual impairment, the number is 500 million people worldwide now. It's close to 500 million people. And it turns out that 48% of that is due to one simple problem, and that is the inability to afford a pair of glasses. Which is, I mean, every time I say it, it just seems so absurd for a reason to be like not able to function. It's absurd for us because glasses in our society is a socially integrated disability. Right? No one calls you disabled if you wear glasses. They say you look intellectual. Or, it's a fashion item, with the little green stripe or something. But actually, without them, you were disabled. And I know a number of people, in fact, I know one of you here who told me that you decided to have laser eye surgery when a car bumped into you on the back at night, and your glasses fell into the floor of the car, and it took you 25 minutes to find them, and you were in a complete panic, and you said, I've got to get this fixed. So we're talking about, well, why don't we just go to China, have glasses made for 20p each, and set up distribution systems for glasses? And you know what? That's actually a pretty good idea. Except, it doesn't work. What do you mean it doesn't work? Well, it doesn't work, and I can prove it to you. You know why? You know how I can prove it to you? Because 48% of visually disabled people in the world are blind because they can't afford a pair of glasses. We have failed, despite 10 years of 2020, Vision 2020 project from the WHO, to spend all the efforts. Refractive error has always been some kind of poor cousin problem. It's not a disease, it's not classed as a disease by us, and so no one thinks of it as a disease. But if you are in an extremely deprived environment, it is a disease. So on to what we're trying to do here. We're trying to invent a way of delivering a 8-minute procedure that heals in 3 hours, and then you are no longer disabled. And you all know what that feels like. But how do we do this? Well, you do it first by finding an angel on this planet called Dr. Ruit, Dr. Sanduk Ruit. This man grew up in eastern Nepal, in a village that was so poor that they did not have electricity. It was so remote that it would take 1 week for him to walk to school, where he was at boarding school in Darjeeling. His father was a trader on the Nepalese-Tibetan border, and he earned all the money he could to send his son to the boarding school. And he was at boarding school for 2 years at a time without seeing his family. And I can tell you from personal experience, I had to be 2 weeks at a time without seeing my father, and that hurt when I was little. Dr. Sanduk Ruit grew up finding his sister with contracting TB, and at the age of 16 she died of TB, untreated. And he was inspired to become a doctor. And he went to India, because there were no medical schools in Nepal at the time. And in India, he not only went to All India Institute, which is literally one of the greatest medical schools in the world, but he graduated top of the class from this medical school. He did his eye training in India and in Australia. But rather than stay in Australia, he went back to Nepal, and he began working in remote areas doing cataract surgery. And this was at a time when cataract surgery was transitioning into technological surgery. And he was convinced that he had to do the same standard of surgery in tents in the middle of nowhere as he was doing in hospitals in Australia. And he was criticized heavily and ostracized heavily because of the cost. They say, how can you do that? How can you take a cataract and put a lens in that costs $150 into a patient? You are depriving 100 more people from a cataract surgery, where you could just take their cataract out and give them these Coke bottle glasses, which, as you see, which are not a great optical solution. And he said no. He didn't take no for an answer. He says, no, we are going to find a way. And he pioneered a way of weaning down the technology to do a cataract surgery efficiently and with great results to only one piece of equipment, the microscope. And he was part of the development of a factory that is now attached to the Tilganga Hospital, where they make these lenses, which the NHS pays maybe £150 for each, and they make them for $5 each. And it's the same quality lens. And so they're now able to do a cataract surgery for $15. And just along the way, in 1988, right here, you saw him in the video, Dr. Jeff Tabin, who's a Harvard, Yale, sort of top graduate mountain climber, met Dr. Ruit, and he's been up Himalayas a few times, and together their passion melded, and Jeff went back to the States and formed a charity called the Himalayan Cataract Project. The Himalayan Cataract Project has been instrumental in raising funds in the US from the US government, USAID money, basically. And this money has led to the first Tilganga Hospital, which was a small hospital just next to the river, 5 minutes from the airport in Kathmandu. And this was opened in 1994. And later on, if I wind forward, through a huge grant, and Job Hines, the CEO of the Himalayan Cataract Project, is here from the States, somewhere in this room, and we'll circulate it and introduce you to him later. He applied for a massive grant with millions to the USAID. This was to build a new hospital, and they opened this new hospital last year. And this new hospital is a 50,000 square foot facility, which houses this incredible team of very high quality surgeons. And I mean, look out the window, it's in the middle of a slum. But inside, it is I don't want to put it down, but it compares very favorably with a lot of the hospitals that we have here in this country. In fact, more than favorably. And the technology is there, and their surgical skill, which I watched it myself, is just extraordinary. And the work that they do is just difficult to watch emotionally, frankly. You have to detach yourself and just think about it as an eye, because otherwise you can't see through the microscope because of the tears that are welling up. These are the lenses that they produce, and it's an extremely busy hospital. They see something like 800 to 900 patients a day, and they refract. So here they refract. They measure for glasses about 500 patients a day. These are people who have walked for maybe a week because they've never seen anybody about their eyes. They can't see. They don't know why they can't see, but they can't see. They come in, and the only problem was, I don't know what his name is, but Johnny here, I don't know what the equivalent is in Nepalese, he wasn't doing well in school, and it was just because he needed glasses. Anyhow, they've got a massive volume, because a lot of the people are illiterate. There's a very high literacy rate still, and so the charts have to be adapted. The Tilganga system also has a set of community hospitals or community centers that are sort of satellite clinics around Kathmandu that provide local care and can feed into the hospital. But they also, of course, have these rather larger outreach hospitals. And Dr. Kishore, who I'll introduce in a minute, is our trainee from there for the project. He was running this particular outreach hospital until he was seconded into our Humanitarian laser eye surgery project. These are patients who at this hospital were having prepared for surgery, and you can see here on the board, every year the hospital organizes something like 25 eye camps, as they're called, and OMICs. These eye camps are literally camps. They trek for lots and lots of days to get to remote places, and they'll screen 4,054 patients and operate on 1,038 patients in the space of 3 days. The efficiency of these doctors is staggering, okay? I mean, I was head of the very first chain of laser eye surgeries in North America, and we did 100,000 procedures in 1 year between 60 doctors in 30 clinics. That is chicken feed compared to what these people are achieving. They are so efficient. And you would ask, well, what about the quality? Well, the quality is like this. There was a paper published in one of the major American ophthalmic journals just recently, where they took one of the superstar cataract surgeons from San Francisco, David Chang, and they put him in with all of the kit you could imagine, okay? And it cost something like 350 pounds just in materials to do a cataract with that technology. And they put Dr. Reed right next to him, and they said, okay, and they started the stopwatch. Dr. Reed did an embarrassingly higher number of cases in the day. And at 6 months, they measured the outcomes and they were identical between the two surgeons. But Dr. Ruiz's surgery cost $15. And so, this is, if you think about it, this is a Nepalese, he is Nepalese, this is a Nepalese contribution to the world. This is nothing less than a massive contribution to medicine. This is a group of doctors led by a visionary who has just said, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to stamp out as much blindness as I can possibly stamp out while I'm still breathing. And that's the way he is. You listen to him talk, he's an amazing man. These camps, I mean, these people are carrying their relatives on their backs for miles. The doctors, of course, the doctors have to carry themselves, and of course the porters have to carry the equipment. I mean, this he's carrying a refrigerator on his back. In fact, that's an operating microscope. And they're going through incredible, treacherous, in fact, Kishore, where's Kishore? I can't see. Where are you? Are you here? Kishore, can you come down, please? Dr. Kishore. Dr. Kishore is as I say, I'll introduce him more clearly later, but he was, he's one of these top dog medical students. I can tell you, and I was asked, how do you find him? I said, compared to residents, I did my residency in New York City. I said, this guy is sharper than the people that I did my residency with. So he was selected, he was basically pulled out of running this peripheral hospital because of his extraordinary skill as a surgeon, and he's a little bit shy, so I'm sorry to put you on the spot. I'm sorry to put you on the spot, but these are all friends. Okay, it's like the family, little circle of friends. And would you mind telling, because the slides just don't do it. Can you please tell us the story about the ICAMP, the story about the sheep, with the sheep? Yeah, would you do that?
It's one of these ICAMPs from Nepal, from Kathmandu. I had to go to the Tibetan border. And it actually took me 17 days to reach there. Exactly like this. We were 5 of us, medical team. We were about 4 to 5 porters carrying the equipment, the microscopes, the autoclaves, and everything. And then it took me 17 days to reach there. And on my way, let me tell you, I had to sleep on riverbanks and in caves. And in caves, I was sleeping with the sheep. That's what it was.
Not there.
And in the morning, I would be bitten by fleas all over my body. I would walk the whole day with the hope that I would find another cave again at the end of the day. We were also screening patients on the way. And when we reached the Tibetan border after 17 days, that's about 4,500 meters high. We screened 54 patients for surgery. And then we had a school. The school had given us a space. It looked like a cow shed when I first reached there. And then we organized a room, and my team had a tent inside one of the classrooms. And because dust was falling off it, we had a tent, and inside the tent was the operating room. And then I had a mask on me. And before I did my first surgery, I collapsed. And then the nurses pulled me out, took my mask off, took the tent out. And then we started the surgery again. I couldn't say, no, I don't want to go back. I could have died then, because there was no phone line. Nobody would have carried me 17 days back. So, and there were people waiting for me for so many days, like probably 5 days, 7 days already for surgery. So I couldn't just say I'm not well and go back. And then I had two people beside me. There's a guy holding an umbrella over the microscope so that dust doesn't fall on the patient. And there was another person shining a torch because the generator did not work. Because of the cold, the snow, everything. And I had to operate. I couldn't say no, no matter what the condition was. And after the surgery, everybody was happy. That's the story, actually. I would say, like, God has his mysterious ways of doing things, but he always does it. And then, if you really want, like, I always say, like, if you really want something, to do something right from your heart, the whole universe gets together, put it in place. And I think that's happening now. Dan, everybody here, Helen, and I don't know from where, me, from the London Vision Clinic, and all of you. That's what I have to say.
So you see, this is going on. This is going on. And in the meantime, say, wind it back 8 years, I'm just burning with this problem of the 48% of preventable blindness because of this absurd reason. And I'm just going over and over and round and round. There are a few of you in this room who actually were listening, but mostly it was just resistance. Mostly it was like, you're crazy. Dan Reinstein, there are so many bigger problems to fry, fish to fry here. You're crazy. And I was at a cocktail party at the American Academy of Ophthalmology meeting in Atlanta 2 years ago, and I started talking to this guy, Jeff Tatum. And I said, Jeff, what you and Dr. Root have done is simply incredible. I just wish. I've been thinking about, trying to have this sort of thing happen with laser eye surgery. This hospital in Tilganga, the model is that most of the people pay because they can. Some of the people pay just the $15 because they can't pay anything more. And they have 30% of the 20,000 cataracts that they do are done for free. It's a cost recovery model. So it's self-sustaining, almost. And I said, this is the way we have to do this with laser eye surgery. He said, it's funny that you mentioned that. 6 months ago, Joe at the Humanitarian Cataract Project, we submitted a $1.1 million grant to USAID to set up a refractive surgery center in Tilganga. But the idea was that Tilganga has a shortfall every year from all this work that they do for free. And so we thought that we would set up a refractive surgery center so that they could generate profit to subsidize the humanitarian work that they're doing. And by the way, it seems not only are they doing their own humanitarian work in Nepal, but if you could believe it, they go to more deprived countries and start to teach their techniques in Burma and northern China and Vietnam, places where North Korea, where there are only 2 operating microscopes in the whole country. In Burma, there was 1 microscope, but the ophthalmologist in Burma had never used it. And the Tilganga organization is going to these places and helping them. So they have a shortfall, and they wanted to generate some income. And I said, well, hold on a second. There's got to be a way for us to do both. We will generate income for this shortfall, but we've got to be able to do humanitarian laser eye surgery as well. And he said, I totally agree. And it was like sparks went off. And literally, it was a love fest. We were married. I mean, my wife is, but it was literally like we both like our veins were sticking out. We were clinking glasses. We were like, this is it. We're doing it. And that was just 2 years ago. I came back, fired up, but not really knowing how we were going to do this. And let me show you how we were going to do this, because it sounds absurd, as Charlotte said, but remember what Schopenhauer said. He said that all truth passes through 3 stages. First, it is ridiculed. Second, it is violently opposed. And third, it is accepted as inherently obvious. And I'm going to try and get you to the 3rd stage right now. Free laser eye surgery for people who cannot afford glasses. It would cost £50 to do one patient's surgery, both their eyes. If we were to charge for surgery in Nepal, in Kathmandu, the price of laser eye surgery for both eyes would be £350. If, and these are very conservative numbers, we talked to all of the organizing people, all the staff in the hospital, and Kishore, and we know from the numbers that it's totally realistic to do 1,000 patients who are paying in the first year, well, not in the first year, but a year, totally realistic. That's a total cost of doing this of £50,000. If you include all the fixed costs, it's £80,000. And it generates revenue of £350,000, and so there's a profit of £270,000. This year's shortfall for the Tilganga is $200,000. Now, if we were to do 1,000 free surgeries, that's 1,000 patients, that's 2,000 eyes. Obviously, the costs would go up to 130. The income is the same. And the profit would still be £220,000. If we were to do 2,000 free patients, that would still translate to a profit of about £200,000, which is more than the shortfall of Tilganga this year. And so there is spare to help increase the footprint and carry on outside of Nepal and all the other good stuff that those angels are doing. And so, in fact, it's not just paradoxical, it makes total sense to do this. You can do as many free surgeries as you can stay awake for and still not affect the bottom line. Because in a country like Nepal, the cost of doing it is nothing. That's why it doesn't make sense to us when we first think about it. If I said I was going to do free laser eye surgery in London, I would be literally bonkers, because it costs thousands of pounds to do one free surgery. Our margin is 10%. There, the margin is 800%. It's a better business in Nepal. You have a lot of extra. You can give some of that back. So, paradoxically, it is only in the poorest countries that you can do free laser eye surgery. Is that crazy or what? When Craig and I were on the way back, we were sitting in the airport in Doha, we had a 5-hour layover, and we said, let's just get the computer out, we just opened a spreadsheet, we started putting the numbers in. Like, that doesn't make sense. How can that be? It's like, wait a minute. Because it doesn't cost anything to do it. We'll put in another 1,000. Jesus, oh my God. And we came back, we couldn't sleep on the way back. We went from thinking, we're a bit crazy, but we're going to do it anyway, to, it's crazy not to do this. I mean, we've got to do this. Anyway, so, the catch. The catch is that, and of course, absolutely, the catch is that those costs are based on already having set up the center. If we required a country where 70% of the population have a family living on less than $2 a day, and we asked them to pay back £1 million to set this thing up, it's a non-starter. So everyone has said that I was crazy. Credit to you, you were right. I would be crazy if we didn't mix the model. And we mix it by saying direct aid to set it up, because once it's set up, we'll be doing Angel's work on refractive surgery. And so, let me tell you where we are with this. And I've got to tell you, it's like I said, since that conversation with Jeff, it's been like dominoes. It's been like a tidal wave. And I'm just running ahead of this thing because there's just too many. I'll get mauled if I don't keep on running. There's so many of us now working in this direction. For example, Tim Archer, my research manager, we publish, as you know, we publish a huge amount of great science out of our clinic, and much of it thanks to the huge amount of work that Tim does. But Tim's sister-in-law, Helen, who didn't want me to mention her, but I'm going to mention you, she runs all of the charity projects, which are big projects for Sting and Trudy Styler, and water projects in Central America. I mean, big stuff. Well, it just so happens that this year they're living in New York, so Helen is free this year to work on other projects, and so we showed her that video at the beginning, and that will do it for you, no problem. They're selling us the same laser that all of you were treated on, with all the bells and whistles, for 90,000 euros, which is the bare. That is a 310,000 euro donation, like that. Dr. Kishore, who you couldn't have met him in a better light. He, of course, we pulled him from his real job. He's an extremely talented surgeon and a very intelligent doctor. I'm telling you, I train a lot of people. He's at the top of the class. He ran this hospital where they did so much cataract surgery, there wasn't even room in the hospital to house the patients overnight. They had to put tents up outside. And he does his ward rounds in the morning with his coat on. We've been training him, and we've been training Gopal over here, who's a laser technician, who's actually an ophthalmic technician, but we're turning him into a laser technician for that part. And we've been, literally, they're joining all of our weekly meetings, all of our teaching sessions, just everything. And I'm treating them. I want them to be the same as me. I don't want the surgery to be any. This is the thing about Tuganga, is that we'll do nothing if it is not at the highest standard. And it fits exactly with the reason why you chose to perhaps have surgery with Glenn and myself. But we have the same obsessional attitude towards laser eye surgery. And these guys, sorry about the pig eye here. Just gonna cover that up. All right, one more peek. So basically, let me just summarize what's happening here. We have, as Kishore put it, these forces in this universe are coming together. We have an organization that has invented an efficient, high-quality eye care model for a whole country from scratch. And we have them open to the idea, and not only open, but enthusiastic about the idea of a new element that has never been considered even possible, called free humanitarian laser eye surgery for those who cannot afford glasses. And at the same time, we are supporting their shortfall in all of the humanitarian work that they do in their own country that is now spreading to other less advantaged countries than Nepal. And so this thing is coming absolutely coming together. And so we came back and modified our mission statement quite specifically to establish a refractive surgery unit at Tilganga Institute of Ophthalmology through direct aid, and provide knowledge transfer for doctors and management to make the unit self-sustaining, to provide humanitarian laser eye surgery and profits, which will support other humanitarian eye care at Tilganga. And the direct aid will also include supporting eye camps, supporting the setting up of more community centers and outreach eye hospitals through the Tilganga model, and the running costs of all of these satellite clinics. And of course, with the knowledge that the future holds the wide possibility for this idea to spread not just throughout the deprived areas of Asia, but into Africa and other areas where this level of deprivation exists. So thank you very, very much for extraordinary interest and turnout in coming here tonight. I've got to tell you that the number of people who did not respond positively to the invitation was minimal. So we were actually quite surprised. We had another room booked, a much smaller room. We had to change it this afternoon. So thank you very much for your interest in this, and I hope that you share this fire that has just gone under all of us at the moment at the London Vision Clinic, with all of the people that are working around us, and I hope that we're going to be able to come back in a year's time and tell you what we've done, not just what we plan to do. Thank you very much. We've kept you, I think, for quite a long time. If you would like to ask one or two questions, and then we'll carry on partying the right way. Yes?
The bit that interested me was the business model in terms of the paying component. I don't have a lot of financial reference points. I work with a children's charity and I know what we pay our staff there. That £350 would be about 2 months' gross salary.
That's right.
What do you think the market size is for the paying clients? Is there an opportunity where you perhaps get some, tourists coming in
Yes.
to have it because it would be competitive there?
Well, you've answered it. Let me just tell you a small fact. The Tilganga Hospital has such a reputation in that region that 20% of the cataracts that they perform come from other countries in the region. So northern India. In other words, the standard of care that Dr. Ruitt and those doctors are giving is so high that people will travel to that hospital even though it's in another country. So these figures were based on discussions and models that they already have from their other eye care systems. And so the answer is that is the number. I mean, they really can do it for that. And we figured that treating 1,000 patients in a year, it would actually not be difficult in that hospital because the think about it. 500 people a day are being measured for glasses. I mean, a day. I'm saying 1,000 in a year. So it doesn't take much of a small percentage of those patients to want to have laser eye surgery. Look, I really kept, okay.
Just one.
Yes.
It seems to me from what I've learned tonight that a major problem here is one of logistics, either moving to the patients or moving the patients to you. How mobile is this equipment?
Well, funny you mention that. The MEL 80 from Zeiss is the only modern excimer laser which is mobile. It was designed specifically to be able to roll over a 2-centimeter bump 100 times and not require realignment of the optics. So we think that in the long term, not carrying it on someone's back, but it will be possible to shift this around the country quite easily. But great question. I'll take one more, and then let's do this, over some liquid. rehydration therapy.
If people are traveling to you for days, can you actually do the operations on everyone who comes to you first? How do you choose?
Right. Oh, well, you know, and that actually kind of reminds me of a point that I did make. Because I did mention the cost recovery model. You know, how do they, you know, how does you get someone who doesn't just go, you say this, you do that, you get it for free? Well, it's actually done by field. And in the hospital, they have a department of extremely well-trained mind reader types. And no, I'm not kidding. I mean, it's extraordinary. I sat in the room. I didn't understand a word they were saying, but I could see what was going on. There is an interview. It's not a form you fill out. It's an interview. And through an interview, they can determine, okay, they might, and they know that some people slip by and get a free surgery when they go to bed, but they're pretty good. 70% of the surgeries are paid full price. Okay, so it's not, they're very good at weeding out who can pay and who can't. In terms of travel, you all know the extraordinary thing about laser eye surgery is that it heals in 3 hours for the most part. So if you can imagine, you can do the surgery and have people lying on a cot or a mat, and then when the bell rings next to their bed, they go and get checked at the slit lamp, and if it's healed, it's healed. So, in fact, it's not a sort of prolonged hospital admission. So the logistics, we think, I mean, of course, we can't answer all these questions yet because we haven't started. But this is going to be up to Dr. Kishore, who clearly has a lot of experience in the cataract outreach concepts. And we think, I mean, the size of Kathmandu itself, plus the tourist industry, plus everything else, we're fairly confident that this is at least going to work on a small scale, locally, and that this can be transported elsewhere. Okay, let's move next door where the jazz is on, and I'm not playing tonight, in case you're about to ask that.